Chris Isom. I'm the lake biologist here at Lake Mission Viejo.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. So, how long have you been working here?
I've been here for about 2 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Sweet. Yeah. So basically, in your words, like, what is golden algae and how has it affected Lake Mission Viejo?
Okay, so golden algae, it's a type of microalgae. Specifically, it's a haptophyte. Haptophytes are characterized by their haptonema, which is it's a tiny needle-like projection that is on the cell that it can use to attach to structures or prey. So golden algae is a little bit different from your normal green algae. It's mixotrophic, which means it can not only utilize sunlight to produce energy through photosynthesis, but when there's not enough nutrients or sunlight, it can obtain those nutrients by absorbing nutrients or even ingesting prey, which is very unlike your typical green algae. So it causes problems because it produces powerful ichthyotoxins that are lethal to any gill-breathing animal. So it can wipe out fisheries, invertebrates, things like that. These toxins, they destroy red blood cells, especially in the gills, and so the fish will literally suffocate from not getting enough oxygen. So the golden algae, it grows fast, it reproduces fast, it's very durable, it tolerates a wide variety of conditions, and it's really hard to get rid of. So once it infects a body of water, it can destroy the fishery and cause problems like that.
Yeah. What are like the main environmental conditions that promote the growth of golden algae?
So it can survive a wide tolerance of different water conditions. It is a freshwater algae, but it tolerates brackish water as well. So you can find it in coastal environments, ocean bays, things like that. It typically temperatures between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, so a wide variety of cold and warm water, and again different salinity. So it's fine in fresh water, but it can survive in brackish water as well, from 10 to 15 parts per thousand. So it's found on every continent besides the Antarctic. So around the world, it causes problems.
Yeah. Have there been any recent outbreaks of golden algae at Lake Mission Viejo? If so, what measures were taken?
So I wouldn't say an outbreak. We've had the algae in our lake for the past 10 years. It has seasons where the cell count drops, but it's never totally eradicated. Basically, when it goes into a dormant phase, it produces a cyst around itself made of silica, and basically just sinks into the sediment during unfavorable conditions, and it can rehydrate or come back to life whenever better conditions arise. So at times like this, we actually have low cell counts right now, and basically what we can infer from that is that the golden algae, it sinks in the sediment, sits and waits, and typically during the rainy season, the colder weather, we see it rebloom, and we'll see those cell counts spike again. As far as remediation, a big thing is nutrient management. We want to prevent excess food and algae, nutrients from going to the lake, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus. The lake was designed with a bulkhead around it, where instead of things from the environment draining into the lake, it drains away from the lake into peripheral drains that are then drain around the lake further down the Oso Creek Valley.
Okay.
This
So big that.
Hello.
I'm Chris.
Hello, man. I just got a little lost in where I was going.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, the big thing is nutrient management. We have a strict quarantine process for not having additional invasive species, not just algae, invertebrates, or anything else that may come on boats and other things like that may end up on our lake. That's one of the reasons, or one of the ways that the golden algae may have originally gotten into our lake from boats or birds, or however it got into the lake. Once it's here, it can establish itself pretty quickly.
You think golden algae entered by like live baits from other ponds and like?
It could have been. I mean, a single drop of water can contain thousands of cells of algae. Like, these are really small. They're about the size of a red blood cell. So they're really tiny. So it could have been even birds, fishing, boats. It could have been transported by air. So it can spread really quickly. So we work closely with the community universities like USC and Purdue, they do some of the real heavy lab testing as far as figuring out what kind of toxins they produce and what they do and don't prefer. Like I said, it is mixotrophic, so if there's not enough nutrients in the water, it can find other ways of getting the nutrients it needs. So looking at lab studies that have been done on it, they found that some of the physical attributes really drive its growth. So it prefers a higher pH, a higher salinity, higher conductance in the water. And so what we're working on now is modifying some of these physical attributes. It's really hard to change, water chemistry in a lake. You can add stuff to it, but it's got environmental conditions and factors that it's always going to want to pull back towards the natural steady state of the water. So we can't just toss something in and expect that things to change, for long term.
Sure.
So it's a man-made lake. So we purchase water from the city. It goes through a treatment facility and then gets pumped into the lake to maintain the water level. We're expanding that facility to be able to pipe water out of the lake, go through the treatment facility, and then pump back in, kind of like a large aquarium filter, with the idea of reducing these physical attributes that have been shown to drive this algae growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any like natural predators or I guess you already talked about like kind of biological controls that can reduce the golden algae?
Not on a scale like this. There are zooplankton that feed on algae, like rotifers and stuff. But for many reasons, they have preference in prey. So they do prefer other algae over golden algae, and they just can't keep up with the level of golden algae. And on top of that, the golden algae has ways of preying on other organisms as well. So it can actually produce, like I said, the toxins that will kill these organisms, and then the golden algae will actually feed on them themselves.
Okay.
So a lot of algae can be controlled with nutrients, nutrient mitigation. They can add things to the water that will bind with these nutrients and remove them from being biologically available. Like I said, the golden algae, it has other ways of absorbing or getting the food it needs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of there's no silver bullet. There's no quick fix for it. Smaller bodies of water have easier times getting rid of it because they can replace the water or treat it easier. We've got more than 1 billion gallons of water. It's 125 surface acres, so it looks small, but it's a lot of surface area to cover.
How can the community help in addressing the problems caused by the golden algae?
So a few things is helping with nutrient management. This really goes out to a lot of our lakeside residents. Is products they're using on their boats or on their lakes, or things that end up in the lake. Even though we have a bulkhead that surrounds the lake itself, there are still weak points where we do find input into the lake, and we try to stay on top of those really strictly. But thinking about the kind of things that end up agricultural products that you end up using on your lawn or things like that. Things that are natural products versus synthetic that have a longer breakdown time, or just produce a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus at the end of the day. But also just education, more people learning about this type of algae and being able to spread that word. Besides the places that are experiencing golden algae, a lot of folks have never heard of it.
Is there any plans in the future to make fishing a little bit more strict when it comes to fishing in the lake or in general?
So they had a lot of rules when we did have a fishery established for, we want to make sure that when we're removing fish, we're not removing fish that are going to be contributing to the growth of the fishery. So they had size limits. You don't want to take the ones that are still growing. And so right now we don't have any fish stocked, but the goal is to get the golden algae under control to reestablish the fishery. And so we'll definitely have some rules, because first you introduce the smaller fish. You keep an eye on the zooplankton communities, so that you make sure that they have enough to eat. And once they're established, you can kind of introduce some larger fish and kind of keep going from there. But we'll always have kind of rules on catch limits and size limits, just to make sure that our fishery is sustainable and can continue to grow and reproduce through the seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I only got one more question. What advice would you give to other lakes or communities facing similar issues?
I think working together. We work closely with a lot of lakes around here. For example, Canyon Lake is one of the most recent infections for the golden algae, and so I work closely with their lake management, and the company that they hire, GEI, to do their monitoring. So we swap water quality, chemistries, and physical attributes of what's going on, and we keep in contact regularly just to say what are they doing, what are they applying, and seeing what solutions they find.
Sweet.
All right, thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
thank you so
no
much
problem,
for your
guys.
time.
We're gonna let this
absolutely.